Hey, have you seen the BTS Netflix teaser that just dropped this morning? The short one? The one that looks totally normal at first glance? Well, stop right there. Don't scroll. Because if you actually pay close attention, there's something strange about Jimin's appearance in that video. And not strange in a bad way. Strange in the sense that there's something he seems to want to say. Something hidden behind that smile, behind the way he's holding that banner, behind the look in his eyes right when the camera zooms in on his face. And in this video, we're breaking it all down. Every detail, every theory, every possibility. So make sure you watch until the end, because the most surprising part comes last. What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, this channel is dedicated to deep diving into BTS and the K-pop world. Not just surface level news, but going all the way to the root of things. And today, we have incredible material to work with. So here's what happened. On the morning of March 4th, 2026, Korean time, Netflix's official social media account uploaded a teaser video titled BTS The Comeback Live Arirang, Trailer Tomorrow. The video announced that the full trailer would be dropping the next day, March 5th. And to build up the hype, all 7 BTS members, RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V and Jungkook, appeared in a short video that looked light, fun, and full of energy. They played red light, green light. They posed with props that said, Trailer Tomorrow and BTS. And their global hit Dynamite played softly in the background. Looks pretty simple, right? But ARMY can never look at something simply. And this time, they were absolutely right not to. Now before we get into the details, I want to set something straight. This isn't going to be a video where we just throw out wild conspiracy theories and call it analysis. Everything we discuss today is grounded in actual observation, things you can see with your own eyes if you go back and watch that teaser carefully. We're going to look at the evidence, present the interpretations, and let you decide what you think. Because that's what good fan analysis looks like. Not blind speculation, but thoughtful observation. And when it comes to Jimin, thoughtful observation has almost always led somewhere genuinely interesting. Okay, let's start with the very first thing people noticed when Jimin appeared in that video. His hair. Now, blonde hair on Jimin is nothing new. We all know that. He's rocked light-colored hair several times throughout his career. But there's something specific about the shade of blonde he's wearing in this Netflix teaser that made several fans stop dead in their tracks and say, "Wait a minute, this looks familiar." And they were right. The color, the undertone of it, the way light reflects off it, is strikingly similar to how Jimin looked during his solo album era, Face, which was released in 2023. Before the military, before that nearly 2-year hiatus. So the question is this a coincidence? If you know even a little bit about the K-pop industry, you know that coincidences in visual presentation, especially for BTS, are extremely rare. Every detail, from hair color to outfit to the way someone is lit on camera, goes through extensive discussions involving stylists, creative directors, and often the artists themselves. So if Jimin shows up with hair that visually echoes his Face era, his first solo era, there's a real possibility that this was intentional. That it's a signal, a visual bridge between his solo journey and this BTS comeback. Almost like saying, I'm bringing everything I learned on my own, and now I'm bringing it back for us. Or maybe the styling team just liked the color. But where's the fun in that? What makes this even more interesting is that Face as an album was deeply personal. It was Jimin's way of confronting himself, his fears, his doubts, his identity as both a person and an artist. The title itself literally means facing yourself. So if the visual callback to that era is intentional, it carries enormous emotional weight. It would suggest that Jimin is entering this comeback not just as a member of BTS, but as someone who has done the internal work. Someone who has faced himself, processed what he found, and is now ready to show the world what came out of that process. That's not just a hair color choice. That's a statement. And think about the timing of all this. Face came out right before Jimin enlisted. It was almost like a goodbye letter, a deeply honest piece of art that he gave to the world before stepping away from it for almost 2 years. And now he's back, and he's wearing that same visual identity again. If that's intentional, and I genuinely believe it might be, then this teaser is already telling us something profound about the emotional arc of Jimin's story. He left as someone facing himself. He's returning as someone who has completed that journey. And now, the next chapter begins. Okay, now we're getting into the detail that's been talked about the most since that video dropped. Jimin's facial expression. I want you to, if you can right now, open that teaser video in another tab. Watch the part where Jimin is holding the Netflix banner. And focus not on the banner, but on his face. Specifically, his eyes. There is a moment, maybe just 2 to 3 seconds long, where Jimin looks directly into the camera. And in that moment, there's an expression on his face that's incredibly difficult to define with just one word. It's not the full, wide smile we're used to seeing when Jimin is genuinely happy and at ease. You know that smile, the one that reaches his eyes, that makes the corners of his eyes lift just slightly, that feels like actual sunlight hitting your phone screen. It's also not the flat, controlled expression he tends to show when he's in full professional idol mode. That more measured, composed look. What's in this Netflix teaser is somewhere in between. Something that many fans have described as the expression of someone who's holding something back. There's warmth there, but also something being kept close. Like words that have already reached the tip of his tongue, but are being deliberately held in. Now, there are 2 ways to interpret this. First, maybe Jimin is still in the process of readjusting. Coming back to the entertainment world after nearly 2 years of military service is a massive transition. Imagine, for almost 2 years, your life was governed by an extremely strict military schedule, entirely different from life as a global idol. Then suddenly, you're back in front of cameras under spotlights, with millions of eyes watching your every move. It makes complete sense that there would be some emotional adjustment visible in his expression. Second, and this is the more exciting interpretation, maybe Jimin actually is holding something back. Something about this concert, something about the Ararang album, something about a planned performance that even the most dedicated fans haven't been able to predict yet. And that expression is Jimin's way. He's always been deeply expressive and communicative through his art, of hinting without really hinting. And here's what makes that second interpretation even more compelling. Jimin has a history of doing exactly this. If you go back and watch older BTS content, teasers, behind-the-scenes footage, live broadcasts from before major releases, there are countless moments where fans later pointed back and said he knew something. A specific look, a small smile that felt different, a pause that lasted just a beat too long. Jimin has always communicated in layers, and the people who pay close enough attention have always been rewarded for it. And I think there's something beautiful about that, actually. In a world where everything is increasingly over-explained and over-marketed, Jimin operates in a space of subtlety. He trusts his audience to be perceptive enough to catch what he's putting out there without him having to spell it out. That's a form of respect for his craft and for the people who follow his work. And it's one of the things that makes him genuinely different from so many other artists in this industry. He doesn't just perform for you. He communicates with you. Quietly, consistently, across every frame and every gesture. And that's something you just can't fake. This is a detail that almost slipped past everyone. Almost. But then someone on X, I won't name them because too many quote tweets have already distorted the original post. Someone posted about it. And within hours, related hashtags were trending in multiple countries. The detail is this. The way Jimin holds the live, only on Netflix, banner is slightly different from the other members who held similar props. If you look at the other members, they hold their props facing directly toward the camera, flat, symmetrical, the way most people would hold up a sign for a photo. But Jimin, he tilts his banner slightly to the left. Not dramatically, but enough to create a different angle. Enough to make his visual framing feel just a little bit different from everyone else's. Now, there are 3 main interpretations circulating in the ARMY community. Interpretation 1, it's purely a physical habit. Jimin is a dancer. His body is trained to move in ways that are consistently a little different from the average person. The way he stands, the way he holds things, the way he distributes his weight. All of it has been shaped by years of incredibly intensive dance training. So tilting the banner might simply be a deeply ingrained physical habit. Interpretation 2, it was a conscious aesthetic choice. Jimin is a performer who is extremely aware of how his body looks on camera. He knows exactly what looks good and what doesn't. And maybe he chose to tilt the banner because visually, that angle is more interesting, more dynamic, more Jimin. Interpretation 3, and this is the one keeping ARMY up at night, it's a signal. in the visual language that has developed between Jimin and his fans over the years, tilting something to the left might carry a specific meaning. And some fans who have gone very deep into the symbolism of Jimin's work are starting to connect this to certain elements within his lyrics and the visual concepts of the album. Is that a stretch? Maybe. But if there's one thing I've learned from following BTS over the years, it's that nothing is ever too far when it comes to their creative decisions. What's worth noting here is that this kind of micro-analysis, this obsessive attention to the tiniest details, is something that separates BTS fandom from almost every other fanbase in the world. And BTS, to their enormous credit, has always seemed to be aware of this. They've built a body of work that genuinely rewards close attention. Their music videos are filled with literary and philosophical references. Their album concepts carry through across multiple eras. Their lyrics, when read carefully, tell stories that go far beyond what's on the surface. So when ARMY analyzes the angle of a banner in a 2-second clip, it's not just obsession for obsession's sake. It's because history has proven, repeatedly, that there's usually something there worth finding. Now let's talk about something a little more objectively verifiable than interpreting expressions and gestures. Screen time. If you watch the Netflix teaser and pay attention, not second by second, but overall, Jimin receives more close-ups and focused moments than he typically gets in BTS group promotional content. Not dramatically more, but enough to notice. And that's interesting, because in BTS group content, screen time distribution has generally followed a fairly consistent pattern, not always perfectly equal across all 7 members, but recognizable enough that when something feels different, it stands out. So why does this one feel different? There's a real possibility that Netflix and HYB made a conscious decision to give Jimin more visibility in this campaign. And the reason, from a business perspective, makes complete sense. Jimin is one of the BTS members with the largest and most active solo fanbase in the world. When he drops solo music, his streaming numbers are consistently extraordinary. When he appears at an event, related hashtags trend immediately. When he posts on social media, the response is immediate and massive. For a promotional campaign aimed at reaching 190 countries through Netflix, a platform that's also actively trying to strengthen its position as a global live event platform, placing the face with the broadest appeal at the forefront is an extremely smart strategy. But smart business strategy doesn't explain everything. Because if there was indeed a creative decision to give Jimin more spotlight in this campaign, it most likely also reflects something about his role in the concert itself. Maybe there's a special performance planned specifically for him. Maybe there's a moment in the concert that will be distinctly his, not just as part of the group, but as Jimin as an individual, before rejoining the full BTS formation. And honestly, that wouldn't be surprising at all. BTS concerts have always had solo stages, moments where each member gets to shine independently before coming back together as 7. And given everything that Jimin has been through, everything he has grown through, it would make perfect sense for his solo stage at this comeback concert to be something truly extraordinary. Something that reflects the version of him that exists today, in 2026, after everything. Think about what a solo stage from Jimin in 2026 could look like. He's coming off 2 years of military service. He's contributed to the writing of multiple songs on Arirang. He's had time, real, uninterrupted time, to think about who he is as an artist and what he wants to say. When someone like Jimin gets that kind of time and space, and then comes back to a stage with hundreds of millions of people watching, the result is almost never just a performance. It becomes a declaration, a moment that defines an era. And if the way he's being positioned in this teaser is any indication, that moment is coming. And it's going to be something none of us are fully prepared for. We can't talk about any of this without addressing the bigger context. Jimin returned from military service in June 2025. Nearly 2 years living military life. And for anyone, especially someone who has lived under global scrutiny since their teenage years, that kind of experience leaves a significant mark. Military service in South Korea is not something light. It's not a vacation. It's an experience that fundamentally changes how someone sees themselves, sees their world, sees their relationship with their work and their passion. And for Jimin, someone who has defined himself so closely with his art and his performances his entire life, that period must have been a profoundly deep journey of reflection. So when he came back and we see him in this Netflix teaser, we're not just seeing the Jimin we've always known. We're seeing a new version of Jimin, a version that has been through something that changed him, even if not in ways that are immediately visible from the outside. And maybe that's what makes his expression in that video feel different. Maybe it's not a signal about the concert or the album at all. Maybe it's simply the face of someone who has grown, who carries more depth, more nuance, more layers within himself than before. And honestly, that's the most fascinating part of all of this. Because here's the thing about artists who go through periods of significant life change, whether that's loss, isolation, challenge, or just time away from what they love, they almost always come back with something they didn't have before. A new quality in their voice, a new depth in their eyes, a new weight to the way they move on stage. And all the greatest performers in history have had moments like that. Moments where you could point to a before and an after. And everything after that point carried the mark of what they went through. Jimin's military service might be his moment like that. And if it is, if what we're seeing in that teaser is the first glimpse of what's on the other side of that experience, then we are standing at the beginning of what might be the most significant chapter of his artistic life. Not just as a member of BTS, but as ParkJimin, the artist. So, is there really something strange about Jimin's appearance in the Netflix teaser? The answer is, it depends on which angle you're looking from. If you're looking at it as a straightforward promotional video, there's nothing strange. Everything looks perfect. Everything looks professional. Everything looks exactly like what you'd expect from BTS. But if you're looking at it as a fan who has followed Jimin for years, who has learned to read his language, who has gotten used to finding meaning behind every detail of his appearances, then yes, there's something there. Something that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. Something waiting to be discovered. And we'll find those answers soon. The full trailer drops March 5th. The Arirang album releases March 20th. And the live concert at Gwanghwamun Square, witnessed by hundreds of millions of people around the world through Netflix, happens March 21st. We don't have long to wait, but the time we do have is more than enough to keep discussing, keep theorizing, and keep sharing our analysis in the comment section below. Because that's what makes being an ARMY so incredible, right? It's not just the music. It's not just the performances. It's the journey toward those moments, all the anticipation, all the theories, all the excitement building up day after day. And Jimin, with all his mystery, always manages to make that journey feel like an adventure all on its own. See you in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have your own theory about Jimin's appearance in the Netflix teaser, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Bye!